Well, hello. Hi, Octavio.
Hey, Juliette, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you too. Hello, everybody. Hello, audience out there in the world. We're so thrilled that you can join us here at SCR Community. This is the second installment of El Teatro de la Comida. I have been formally called this Queso en Verduga, so theater of the meal, theater of food. And this installment, the first installment was called Masa. This installment is called Vegetables and Cheese. And we'll get to the reason why I call it that in a moment. But just to give everyone a context, Octavio and I have worked together, I think it's over 20 years now, Octavio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess we started when I was 10.
Yeah, exactly. I was like 5. And yeah, we have worked in a couple projects in New York, a couple projects in Chicago, in San Francisco, in New Haven,
Denver,
Ashland, Oregon, Denver, Los Angeles, all across the country. And the last time I saw you was in Kansas.
Oh, that's right.
At the William Inge Festival, where they honored Octavio Solis 2019. So
that was really sweet. I had such a great time, and I loved Independence.
Yes, Independence.
I loved the town and the people there. They were so generous, so wonderful.
Yes. So we have been around the country, and next up will be international, right? Hopefully, that's why not? And so. And in fact, I think the very first project we did together, Octavio, was actually at SCR. I think it was the Clearing, the workshop of the Clearing, which was part of the Hispanic Playwrights Project, which I ran back in the day.
One of my great unfinished plays. One of the plays that I still have yet to return to. I still have dreams of completing that work. It's just that, you kind of get distracted by other work that suddenly becomes more urgent, and they're all vying for attention. All my children, we've got 3 dogs here, and it's such a strange dynamic dealing with all of them politically, because each of them wants their own attention, and I feel like plays are like that too. And sometimes when I feel like, well, I've done it, I've done a reading or just a first production, I feel like, okay, that one saw its course, because I have this other work that's just nagging me.
Right.
Or the theater company is saying, come on, this is big. You need to finish, you need to work on it.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately, I abandon them.
But sometimes it's nice to take a little space and then come back and see where you are. I mean, it's been a long time, I'm assuming, since you looked at the Clearing, and you're a different person now, and you'll bring all kinds of new perspectives now, given your life experience since you wrote it. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that play. Yeah,
me too. I have an idea. I have some ideas. It all started because I went to an exhibit at Intersection for the Arts, and I saw the exhibit of this one artist who went to Colombia, I believe, to dig up graves, mass graves of people that had been killed during the war with FARC, and she was part of the disinterment of these people, these bodies, and it was just a very interesting process, archaeological process that also had to take great care because they were people. They weren't like ancient relics, but recently killed people. Yeah. So I just found that really fascinating. And then I read another article at about the same time in the New Yorker about someone who was undercover for the DEA and had gone to Mexico and had been murdered there, and his body had been buried in the jungles of Mexico, somewhere in some mountains. And due to the fact that they were able to retrieve some of his clothes and his shoes, just using the soils and the seeds and the some of the debris that had been on his shoes and on his clothes, they found that they could identify more or less the region that he'd been buried at, then the actual mountain range, and then the actual mountain, and then which side of the mountain. It's all really tied in with the biodiversity in that region. So it was just an interesting thing trying to bring those two ideas together. I should get back.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's still very topical.
I know. All of these things are
like even more so. So talk to us. So I'm very interested in this transition that you're in right now. You're in you've moved from San Francisco, where you were a very urban-based playwright, spent a lot of your time writing there, and then, of course, working around the country, but very connected to San Francisco. And then you moved, and we'll talk about where you moved to. But first, let's talk about San Francisco. What was your life like in San Francisco? And I'm very sorry that Jeannie can't join us today, but maybe you could talk a little bit about Jeannie and what her life was like also.
Yeah, well, she was the vital element in this. She's the one that said we need to move out of Dallas, and I felt the glass ceiling myself. And then when I got my very first reading of my very first play at South Coast Rep with the Hispanic Playwrights Project.
Before my time.
Yeah, we went there and worked on the reading, and it was so well received. The play was so well received that John turned to me, John Glore, the art literary manager, turned to me and he says, well, it looks like we're going to be doing this play. And they did it the following year.
And that was Man of the Flesh?
That was Man of the Flesh. Mm-hmm. But even at that evening at that reading, we knew we felt like, well, we better move to California. They like me here. And at that very night, Jeannie had gotten a call from her headhunter because she was job hunting all over California, Chicago, Seattle, etc. And she got an offer from a company in San Francisco called, the company was called GATX. And so it all happened that same evening. And we thought, well, it's a sign. We have to move to California, to San Francisco. So, I had been contemplating LA, but I'd lived in Dallas for 10 years, and they resembled each other too much. You were always in your car. You couldn't walk anywhere. It wasn't a walking town. It was a driving town. And I wanted to live in a city where I could, take mass transportation and mass transit and walk. And San Francisco appealed to me for that reason. So we went there. I think
Jeannie worked as a lawyer, correct?
Yes, she was an in-house counsel for this company when she got hired there. Another reason was, I just the mythic presence of Sam Shepard in my mind, and his association with the Magic Theater, and just loomed large, cast a large shadow on me and my work, and my desire to be a playwright. So I said, I want to go there, and sure enough, within a year, I had a play there.
Amazing.
And I've had a long-standing relationship, as have you. You've directed there as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's just really interesting to me. how I ended up there. But we were there for 25 years.
Wow.
Real urban. I mean, in the city. I wanted to live in the city, not outside, And so we lived in the Sunset District, half a block or 1 block away from Golden Gate Park, which I called my backyards, where I walked my dogs every day. Less than a 5-minute drive to the beach. So I had Ocean Beach there. I was on right by 19th Avenue, so I could drive to the SFSU real quick, or down to the peninsula to 280 from 19th Avenue, or take that same 19th Avenue north, and within 15 minutes I'd be at the Golden Gate Bridge. So I could then go into Marin and all those places. I was a little farther from the East Bay because I'm on the west side of San Francisco. But still, I loved it. I loved it. And when I wasn't traveling, I was home. I had a little Unabomber shack, I call it, my little office at the back. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It's where my daughter was born. It was the only home she knew until we moved away. And it broke my heart when we had to move, because I really, really loved that house.
So why did you move?
We moved because my wife really wanted to retire, and she could read the writing on the wall. Her company was either going to lay her off, fire her, or she was going to retire. She wanted out, and she was hoping that they'd lay her off, because then she would get benefits from that.
Right.
You would probably get maybe a little bonus from retiring, and that's a nice little send off. Hi, bye, and good luck. But so she held out for as long as she could. She had a plan. She had a 5-year plan, and so 5 years before we actually moved here, we bought the property. Bought the property 10 years ago, March. And or maybe it was around this May, but she bought it, and she fixed it up over time. We kept it as a vacation rental for people going to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and at the end of those 5 years, right on cue, she was laid off. They closed her office in San Francisco, so she was dancing a little jig inside of herself because everyone else was crying. Everyone else was a wreck. But she was so happy. Because, now I'm free. And I get a little, I get benefits from that. And healthcare got extended another 2 years. And so we moved right away after that. So we've been here now 5 years on this property. And we've done a lot more work on it since then. But she knew we had to move, because if she retired or got laid off, we could not live on her retirement and my income as a playwright, because I'm not a professor. I don't teach. This is it. How I make my money. We could not afford our mortgage on her retirement, and my income is for discretionary purposes, really. So we knew that we had to move. And I said, Jeannie, you supported me in my career all your life. You never you made me quit my jobs. I used to teach high school. I used to be a bartender. I used to do both at the same time. She made me quit one and then made me quit the other within months, because she wanted me to focus on my career as a writer.
And that's so amazing. It's just so honorable and beautiful that you did that. Such a gift.
Such a gift. And I recognized it, and I said, I owe you. So wherever you want to live, I'll go. I'll move there with you. And I don't care where you go. And if you want to move to Madagascar or Bangkok, Thailand, wherever, I will go. And I really thought she was going to pick Sydney, because she loves Australia. She's gone there for work purposes so many times. And I went with her, with Gracie, our daughter, one time as well, and had a blast all over Australia. And so I thought it might be Australia. Then I also wondered if it might be Austin, Texas, because we almost thought of moving back there. And then I even thought it might be Kentucky, where her family hails from.
Oh, wow.
Thought, well, maybe Lexington, maybe Louisville. I don't know. But I said anywhere. And she said Ashland, Oregon. We've been coming up here for the last 20 years, since 1998, 97, really, for my work. But really, as tourists and theater goers, we've been coming since we moved to San Francisco, since 1990. We were up here every summer at B&Bs and going to see the theater, and we loved it. I never entertained the possibility that they would ever produce my plays here, but they did. And once that happened, then Jeannie started quietly conspiring to, check out the properties here. So she knew we were going to move here eventually, long before I did.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, maybe we should show some photographs of what your farm looks like.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I haven't seen these, so I'd love to see them. Matt's our, so this is your house?
That's our little house.
Yeah.
It's got 3 stories. There's that story there with the door. That's where the living room is. Beneath it is our basement, and we have a large TV room with a bar. And then upstairs are 2 small bedrooms with a small bathroom. And
go to the next one. Oh, this is your studio.
It's my office. Yeah, this is
that's where you're sitting right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm inside there right now. That's my studio, my office. I named it one time and it didn't stick. I wanted to name it La Catrina because Catrina is spelled with a C. Is the woman that's in those Posada etchings, the calaca, the hat. She's named La Catrina. But someone who came here with the Latino theater project, Latino Playwrights Project.
Yeah.
Said, you called it Katrina? I don't know, man. It's too close to home too close to me, too close to home because she's from Louisiana, from New Orleans. And Katrina, it means something completely different.
Of course.
So I always thought about maybe changing it, and I just call it my studio or my office now. I don't pretend any.
Let's go to the next slide, Matt. Oh my God!
Oh, that's me.
Who is
that? Was shorter, a lot shorter.
who is that?
That's I want to say that's no, it's not Pacha. I think it's you know what? That is Sammy. That's one of our that's our first goat that we had born here. We helped birth our first goats. We bought 2 goats. They were brothers. They were 2 sisters, and one of them was pregnant already.
Oh, wow.
And within months of us getting them, we had to midwife the birth of her 2 babies, Sammy and Lila. And this is Sammy.
Wow.
You got those short ears. That's Sammy when he was a baby. He is a big boy now. He now rules the herd. He's the herd leader.
Really?
He's a big boy.
All right, let's show the next one. Okay, there we are with Genie. There's Genie with a beautiful photo.
And that's when some of the other babies were born.
So this is actually when she's midwifing them right now?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's the mama, and that's one of her babies that just got born. She can barely, it's still wet.
Amazing.
The mama licks off the caul that it comes in and eats it.
Wow.
Sometimes we peel it off, but she's she really is. She just beams when she sees these babies being born. It's an amazing thing. I don't remember who those are now, but that had to have been a little more recent. I'd say when maybe in the last year or 2. We've had kiddings almost every year.
Amazing.
We have every year.
There's another one.
Me. Oh, that's me with little Coco. Oh my God, that's Coco. He's a sweetheart. He's He's grown now. He's still a really small goat, but he was so sweet and gentle. He was a sweetheart. That is little Coco.
You want to talk about where the name came from?
Well, I think in this case it was obvious. We named him because he's Coco colored.
Oh.
You don't get those Coco colors. But at the same time, I was also working on Coco, on production of the film with Pixar.
Yeah, can you fill the audience into what your role was on that?
Yeah, I was a cultural consultant on it.
Okay.
It was a position that they created specifically for Coco. I don't think that Pixar had ever worked with cultural consultants before. The director, the production designers, the writers, the producers, they hadn't. So they were a little nervous about it, but they thought that they should bring some people with a Latino background, specifically Mexican background, to counsel them as they worked on the film. They'd already started on it. They'd already started working on the story, had done all the research, had spent a lot of serious time down in those small towns in Mexico where Day of the Dead is honored and becomes like a major festival. So they had embedded themselves in those communities for some years and had taken thousands of photographs and drawn lots of filled pads with so many drawings to get ideas. And then at some point they brought us on. They said, we think we need to get this right. We need to get this story right. And they brought us on.
Was that a chicken that just passed by?
Was it?
Something.
Hello, buddy. Hey, baby. How you doing? Yeah, that's them. You'll occasionally come here and visit me. They bug me because I keep a little bag of henny penny.
Oh,
chicken treats for them.
That's funny.
So they have me trained. I think I have them trained.
What's that?
They have me trained.
Oh, really?
I always say I have them trained at this thing, but no, it's the other way around. They train me.
Yeah. Okay, so how many goats do you have now?
We had 9.
Wow.
We had 9. We had 3 or 4 more, but we sold them and then we gave them to some other friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we roll the goat video? I'd love to see the goat video.
Well, that's so much fun.
Just this, no words.
Just this, no words. Oh.
Yeah, you know what? That's my zen. My moment is zen. When the world gets too much with me, and honestly, being on my computer all day can just put a huge weight on my shoulders with what's going on in the world. Just walking outside, spending time on my farm, spending it with these chickens or with the goats, it can be very calming, very soothing. And it kind of reminds you, that you got to keep your wits. You can't lose it because there are lives that depend on you. Live. If I don't get out of bed, the goats get hungry. They go hungry. If I don't let them out, they'll get too hot in the barn. And often it's Genie that does it in the morning. She lets them out because she's up earlier than I am. I'm often up late in the mornings, and she does the milking too. I have to learn to do that. I want to learn to milk. But I visit them all the time. I drop in on them. They love company. The goats are very friendly. The chickens are also friendly. They're truly free-ranging. So they're all over the property. It's not even that big. It's only 3 acres. But it just feels big enough for us to be able to kind of like breathe. And then the surrounding area, this countryside, is so beautiful, and so it's remained green and intact. And it's a little valley, so there's hills on both sides of us. So at night the stars still shine so brightly. You can see, and I never knew what people talked about when they said the Milky Way, when they mentioned the Milky Way. When you're out here, it does look like somebody spilled a lot of milk across the sky at night. It's just so many stars, and some of it just looks like these like a smudge of white, because it's just stars and stars and stars and stars, millions of them. So we'll sit outside at night sometimes, and even during the day too.
Octavio, I asked you to read a passage from Mother Road because it's so connected to Mother Earth and the cycles. And so would you mind reading it?
Absolutely. This is from Mother Road, and it's a monologue that James, who's a friend of Martine, has in Act 2. And he kind of speaks for me. He has a lot of my beliefs in his philosophy. Mm-hmm. About a year ago, I had a devil of a time sleeping. I tried and tried, and I just couldn't get my rest. It was like a rash on the inside I couldn't get to. But before I know it, I'm lying right here like a rug stain with all these empty quarts of Jack around me. I ran outside in this crazy rage and ripped all the grass right out of the ground, and there, where the roots were, I swear I saw it. Blood. It was coming up out of the ground. I put my finger in it and tasted it, and it was like honey but divine. That's when I heard her, Mama Earth, saying, "People, this is what you get. You don't deserve the water, so I'm taking it away. You don't deserve the wolf, so your children won't never hear its howl again. And they'll never see the elephant and the clear skies over a blue lake full of fat trout and the rich loam of good land. I'm taking it all back, putting it out of reach till you go, till it's safe for life again."
Beautiful. Thank you, Octavio.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very dark monologue, and not necessarily optimistic monologue, but for me, when I read it, it was optimistic in that it was a call not only to the characters on stage, but to the audience. And a very successful one because it's powerful and moving, a call to the audience. And I know that you wrote I believe that you wrote this somewhere in the transition when you were moving from the city to the country. And I think you were connecting more to the earth.
I actually wrote it when right after I went on this trip with the people from the Steinbeck Center. The National Steinbeck Center took 3 artists and a film crew and some of their staff on this road trip called the Grapes of Wrath road trip that started in Sallisaw, Oklahoma, and went along what was then Route 66, but is now Interstate, I can't remember, 44, I don't know. I don't remember. But we took what used to be Route 66 all the way to California, to Bakersfield. And really, my trip didn't end until I got home to San Francisco over 12, 13 days. And we were seeing the land. We were seeing what people were doing to the land. And the whole time, the consciousness of Grapes of Wrath was getting in me and feeding me. And the Grapes of Wrath is set during the worst ecological disaster, man-made ecological disaster this country's ever had, which is the Dust Bowl. And all I could feel during this long road trip is that we're not long for another major Dust Bowl, probably one worse than the one that they had in the Midwest, one that may start in California and then sweep all the way across the country eastward. And so I became very ecologically conscious of my role as a writer and what I had to do. And we were already sort of feeling like, we're going to be moving to the country ourselves. So I didn't even know then that was happening. I still lived in San Francisco.
On some level you did, because Jeannie knew, right?
Oh, Jeannie knew. Yeah.
Jeannie knew, so you knew somehow, in some level.
Yeah. But I didn't understand how all these companies that I started working all knew that before, in some ways, even before I did.
Wow.
Because Steinbeck asked me to write this play based on this trip. And so in some respect, I had to tap into the farmer in me.
Yeah.
Because Tom Joad was a farmer. And I ended up writing a play about a descendant of Tom Joad, who is a picker, who goes on the Pisca of Mexican descent, someone of Mexican descent named Martin Jodes. And but all these other companies at the same time were also asking me to participate in projects that somehow called on me to bring my consciousness as a farmer. Even before I was a farmer. So I worked with Tides Theater in San Francisco on a piece called Alicia's Miracle, that is based on the stats that show how toxic poisoning through spraying of strawberry fields is actually impacting not just the pickers, but the communities that live around there. So I wrote a play about a young woman who goes to Sacramento to the ag department to say, who did this to my baby? Because she's got already she knows the baby's deformed before it's born, and wants to know who did this, even though she's not working in the fields. She's just a cafeteria worker in a school that is right by there in Oxnard, California. So I was already dealing with farming there. Berkeley Rep called me also and asked me to participate in a large, massive project that they called the Food Project, that enlisted, I think, over 25, maybe 27 playwrights and other writers. I know they brought Culture Clash into it. I know they brought I can't think of all the other writers. There were so many of them, but they brought me too, and we went through a week's worth of interviews talking with people from the National Meat Association. We went to visit organic farms. We talked to people who are migrant workers. We talked to people who are opening restaurants that are only serving organic food. So we dealt with food and food critics. So we dealt with food from the stable to the table, from the ground to the plate. And I wrote a 10-minute play called Scarecrow that is about somebody who's going to try to become a farmer and just can't get it together, is constantly failing. It's also sort of based on a Bob Dylan song, The Ballad of Hollis Brown. And so I kind of joined my ideas with a little bit with some Bob Dylan there. And the Food Project came to naught. Nothing ever became of it. We did a reading of all the works. It was all going to be just too massive, I think, to really see through, and would have needed a lot of funding. But I've had the play published, and I've done a reading of it. But sometime I'd like to see it produced.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully there's somebody listening out there in our audience that'll grab it up. So how has living on the farm changed your relationship to food?
Wow. Oh, man. Especially during this time.
Yeah.
has really affected us a lot. We went in and selected a part of our garden strictly for growing our own vegetables and fruits. So we have a small orchard with a couple of apple trees and pear trees, a fig tree, a cherry tree, 2 kinds of plums. We have several raised beds with lettuce and tomatoes and chiles and tomatillos and sweet peas and strawberries and raspberries right now. We let there's a bush right here, right by my house, by my office, that is producing some of the largest, juiciest blackberries. We let this bramble go wild because it's also habitat for quail. So we're getting a lot of food from that we're growing, and we're eating it ourselves. Lettuce, we were growing lettuce and leeks. We have leeks. So much potatoes. Jeannie's growing her own potatoes. And then every morning we collect eggs from our chickens. We have the milk from our goats, the cheese, and the yogurt that we make.
You're making your own cheese, right?
Our own cheese, ricotta cheese.
Oh my God!
And the yogurt is
to me.
Incredible. Yes. The yogurt is amazing. The milk is incredible too. It's like there's nothing like it. It doesn't taste gamey at all. It tastes like really rich cow's milk.
Amazing.
But we also went in half on a cow. We bought a cow with
half a cow
with Peter Bratt. Peter and Maya Bratt. They became really good friends of ours. He's a filmmaker. He made the film on the Lotus Huerta and is the brother of Benjamin Bratt. Yeah. He was a neighbor. He lived up here for a while, and we went in half on a cow. They took care of it. We paid half of it, and paid half for its care, and then paid for its butchering. Actually, we didn't butcher the cow. We butchered its offspring once it got of age, and so we had all this meat that we had to then put in a refrigerator. So we bought a kind of meat locker so we could keep it in there. Meat chest, ice chest, big ice chest. So we have a lot of our own meat, but we're also buying those forever patties, those forever burgers of completely vegetarian. Have you had those? Impossible. They're incredible. I can't tell the difference. So I may eschew real burger meat for a while because I can go either way. They're fantastic. Anyway.
So really, when I think of you as an eater, I really think of you as a meat guy, like a meat and potatoes guy, and also diner food, burger. This has been your staple your entire life that I have known you. So it's really great to hear that you've changed your ways, Octavio.
A little bit. Also, we have short ribs, and we're going to have some real burgers tonight. But I'm sold on Medford burgers. I'm sold on them. They're fantastic, and I want to see what else we can do with that. Anyway, because we've been on lockdown all this time, and I tend to get everything. Everybody's cold, and it never leaves. It lingers forever with me. I've been afraid that I'm going to get COVID. So I'm the one that stays in the property. Jeannie's the one that goes out and does the shopping. I seldom leave this space. I'm under house arrest. But it's really fun to go out and pick our own food that we can have that evening on our plate. And we just think, God, we got to take care of this planet. We got to take care of it because it's feeding us.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's changed my writing quite a bit. Yeah,
talk about that. How has it fed your writing, so to speak?
Well, it's I feel like there's another unspoken character that we're not addressing when we're writing our plays, and I feel like it has to become a major character, a more present character in the work we do, and that's the trees, the grass, the sky, the water. All of these have to become viable, strong character elements in our work. Yeah. I wrote this play that I had done just a few years ago with Circle X Company in LA. And it was a commission by a friend of mine, by Kate Jobson, to write about her community just south of here, in fact, across the state line in California, east of Wairika, about 45 minutes east of Wairika. Beautiful Scott Valley, beautiful ranch land, sitting among forests all around. But there is something that's happening in the community that's tearing people apart, tearing the community apart. And that's that there's a diminishing water supply, diminishing water in the Scott River and in other rivers, the tributaries around there as well. And everybody needs that water. There's more homes being developed, so they need water for that. There's a casino that the natives, the native tribal council wants to have, but it needs, they need water. The ranchers want to keep the water for their alfalfa and for their cattle to drink, but also for their crops, for that strictly alfalfa and grass. And then the native tribes further down the river need it for their salmon. They need it for the salmon and the trout, which they need it not only for their livelihood, but it's a cultural thing. It's an important symbol for them. So it's a real strong element in their lives. All of these people have really good reasons for staking a claim on the water, but there's less of it every year. Mm-hmm. And it's because there's less rainfall every year. There's less snowpack every year. And so I had to write this play interviewing all these people, but it seemed like the central character that they were all circulating around was the valley itself, was the river itself, the Scott River, which was just, being fought over. Not anyone really giving a thought of what does the river need? What does the river itself need? It culminates, the play culminates also in a fire, a forest fire that they all start fighting and trying to run away from. And it just is, it's really a symbol for what's going on inside all the relationships with each other. But there's a huge fire. And when we were doing the play in one of our dress rehearsals, there was an actual fire in LA at the time. We were performing it out near on a horse ranch in the mountains. It was outdoors. And choppers were actually flying there, and the owner came out and said, "We might have to have you move because we need to get our horses out of here." They dealt with fire before, and it was just someone careless in an encampment nearby. The fire got away from them, some campfire, and it just spread. But they eventually put it out. But it was so ironic that I'm writing this play that has a big fire, and we're working on that scene, and we hear real sirens, and choppers are really flying overhead.
Wow.
Low. So
again, another topical play, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It's just too topical, and it's just like, and that's a play that I feel like needs another life. I think that I see things that I could do to rewrite it that would just sort of tighten and focus it more, because I think it merits more attention. A lot more attention. We were going to perform it here at Scott Valley, but they just ran out of money. The company ran out of money. Only do it in LA. And I think that community deserves this play. And also the passage of time means that I feel less beholden to like getting their, or less afraid rather of having people think, oh, that's me. That's supposed to be me, because they're all fictional characters. Yeah. But some of the things they said find their way into the play. Yeah. It's based on a lot of interviews we did. So it was, I think it's made me conscious in that way. I'm writing a new play about another river, about the Rio Grande. How the Rio Grande became a border in 1848. So I'm writing about Texas and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. and how Mexicans who lived in Texas, in this area that nobody really wanted between the Nueces River and the Rio Grande River, way down in South Texas, how they were kind of ignored by both Mexico and Texas until Texas won its independence, and then they wanted their land. And then the Mexicans felt they had no rights because they were booted off, chased off, or hanged. All because suddenly land that nobody wanted became very desirable. And the river became a border, where before it was just a river.
Right.
It was just a river.
Yeah.
And
well, it's so beautiful that you're honoring nature with your writing. It's it's very exciting for us as a theater community, and also I think the audience. I think you're taking the audiences to new places by bringing consciousness to the earth. So thank you for that. So I think we have time for a few questions. We have an audience. So
you have an audience?
Yes, it's not just us. It's not just us chatting. We have an audience. Did you forget for a minute?
I thought it was just us, and this is going to be aired later on.
Okay, here's a question. That's an awesome office. Is it prefab?
No, it was made from scratch.
Made from scratch.
Yeah, Rick, our contractor, designed it. He drew up some plans. He was very proud of them, and I said, go to it. All I cared about was having a wall for my art, which is all here, a wall for my books, which are there, a wall for my media, which is over in the other direction, and that's, and then a wall of windows leading out to the door, and that's, you can see my office, in fact, in the background right now.
Yeah.
That's my office.
Matt, do you want to take us out just for a moment so that we can see that photograph real quick?
That's when it was just finished, and the very first thing I did is move my desk in. I bought a desk that was made out of old barnwood, and that's I started moving in. But he built it as I asked. I had those simple requests and a slanted roof because we need it for rain or snow to wash off. And then I gave him a lot of freedom. I gave him a lot of freedom, and he just went to town, and it was so much fun. He found this little nook behind me there, this little corner thing, and I said, "Oh, that can be my altar." So I made it into a kind of altar.
Beautiful.
So, and so that that's it.
Any other questions? Okay. What are your dreams for your child and for children in general, the next generation?
Well, my dream, I guess, my fondest hope is that they do a better job than we did. Mm-hmm. I think we were supposed to be the generation that was going to save the planet, and the generation before us. That's why Earth Day started, and I think it's been slow, and it's been a movement, but there's been a lot of setbacks since then. A lot of things we're losing. We're losing so much of the Amazon is burning every day. The North Pole, they're raging fires right now in Siberia and in far northern Alaska and Canada. Of course, you know about the fires we had in Australia. So much of the Great Barrier Reef is lost, and the elephant population is, which is my pet project, is dwindling every day. So I feel like maybe the next generation will save what's left for them and for their children. So that's what I hope for. That they do a better job than we did. Climate change, I think, will force us all to the table to come up with more solutions. But I think we've gone past the point of no return. The car is going to hit the wall. We're not going to hit it at 70 miles per hour, but hitting it at 30 miles per hour is still hitting it hard. So I just hope that the next generation does better.
How has your farm environment influenced your writing? Well, we've talked about that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, but not about the mechanics of it.
Okay.
I think the thing about it is that whereas in San Francisco, I really didn't start writing until like 10 o'clock at night because there was so much noise all around me, the traffic, and, you know, Gracie was a child, and I needed to spend time with my wife because she was working from, she left the house at 8:30, wasn't home till 6:30. And I felt an obligation to be with her. I never really got busy writing until like 10 o'clock the next day, that night. So most of my better writing happened between 10 and 2 in the morning. I'd sleep in, till 10 and then get up and try to write, but mainly just return phone calls and talk to directors, etc. But most of my writing happened late at night. Here, it's like I write anytime. I feel it's so quiet that I really do feel the impetus to sometimes just get up in my pajamas, walk over here, commute to my little office from home, which is about 100 paces away, and sit down and just start working. And the other thing is that I can work for like an hour and then take a break and be with my chickens, or go inside and have some breakfast with Genie, or lunch. Last night, we had dinner. After dinner, I came to work out here in the middle of the night. The other thing is, and COVID did this, is that I'm not traveling anywhere all this year, so I'm really just home.
Right.
And so I can write. I use all the time that I can to write. It's been hard because of all the stress. I didn't really feel like I could write for quite a while. Mm-hmm. March, April, May, June, nothing. Mm-hmm. Then July, some things started coming, and then this last month, August, has been very good. Mm-hmm. I'm writing quite a bit now, mm-hmm. And it's so satisfying. It's not my best writing, but it's okay. Just the first draft always should be ugly. It better be ugly.
Yeah.
But it's changed the rhythms in how I write.
Before we log off, let's acknowledge all the work that you've done at South Coast Rep, because you have had a long partnership with South Coast Rep. So how many plays have been produced at South Coast Rep?
I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I had Man of the Flesh done first, and then something that I wrote for them called Scrappers that they toured to the schools. Mm-hmm. Then the long-running Christmas play La Posada Mágica, mm-hmm. which I wrote in collaboration with Marcus Loya, and which ran for 14 seasons there. 14.
Wow.
And I developed a relationship with all those actors that was really close. They were a real family. Even after years of them not performing in it, they check in and want to find out if they could do the role again, and we'd cast them in a different role. And so it was so much fun seeing people kind of grow into the roles. My dream had always been to see Gracie play the role of Gracie in that, but she ended up not being a theater person at all.
Thank God.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I take great pleasure in seeing all my Gracies have wonderful blossoming careers. Everyone from Gloria Garayua to Ruth Livier to Chrissy Guerrero, all of them, and of course, gosh, she's gonna kill me. I can't remember her name right now. She was in it more than anything else, and was the one.
The fourth play was what?
Oh, the fourth play was Outlands, the musical.
Yeah.
Thank
You know
you.
what you're forgetting one. Encarnación.
Encarnación.
That was the shadow puppet play that you did with Larry Reed. That was
that's right.
Mario's, which is where Masa was of Luis Alfaro's.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
We did that. I've been working on that with Larry Reed, and he was so wonderful, and to come and project the video on the wall was terrific to just show it that way. And
Joanne Deneau just texted me. It's Tiffany Solano.
Tiffany Solano, oh my gosh, who is now in Dallas, Texas, and is killing it there.
Great.
She has taken over that town. She's she took some time off to raise a family, to have her babies, and to have this wonderful relationship with her husband and buy a home and all that. And she called me and said, I'm in Dallas now. I want to get to work. Who can I call? And I gave her some contacts, and boom, things started happening right away. I knew they would, because she's extraordinary. But they all were. And
Carla Jimenez was in it too, right? And she was
Carla Jimenez. Yeah, she played one of the comadres
on our Masa evening.
Yeah.
So
Gloria, I saw recently in a series.
Yeah, she's had a big career.
Yeah. I'm so proud of her. I'm just really proud of all of these amazing actors that they've had.
Quite a legacy at South Coast. We've both have had a really long history with South Coast.
Yeah, and I should mention that Cloudlands was the musical I wrote with Adam Guan, and it was a wonderful collaboration. He remains a really good friend of mine, and he helped me fulfill a dream, which is to write a musical that is not a comedy, a musical that is in fact formalistically a tragedy. That follows obeys the rules of tragedy, and does it in the most elegant way, in the kind of way that I learned from studying the Greeks, and he was incredible, and in the composition of that music, he was really, really special.
Well, here's some more projects at South Coast Rep.
Yeah.
Who knows what the future brings, right?
I have some commissions. I'm writing a couple plays.
Great.
And they're both in process. I did a reading of one, but I need to rewrite it, and that's going to be coming soon. And then I have something else that SCR may have a piece of, but I can't talk about that now.
Yes. Lots of secrets, but that's okay. So I need to tell our audiences that in 2 weeks, we will have the final part of El Teatro de la Comida, and that is a radio play that I've written and directed. So it's called $10 Taco.
Oh, wow.
It's a good title, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I'm excited. So that's all I'm going to say about it. It's a secret. We like secrets. So please tune in 2 weeks from now, same time, same place, your living room. And you'll enjoy the third part. So thank you all for attending tonight. And with that,
we're done?
Es todo.
Oh, no. Talk some more. You didn't get to talk much. I did all the yakking.
It's called Interview with Octavio Solis. So I get to play Oprah, and you get to play Octavio Solis. So that's how it works.
Well, everybody at SCR, you all have been so good to me, and I still think of SCR as my home, one of my artistic homes. I've been lucky that I've had several homes, and in San Francisco, up here in Oregon, and at SCR. It's just I've been very, very lucky.
Yeah, and they had a big part of my development as an artist as well. You know, spending time there running Hispanic Playwrights Project was a major part of my development as an artist. I got to work with amazing writers, and I got to in the development.
My development, Julie.
Yeah, all of us. We kind of grew up together. You know, all of us kind of have found our way as artists and as humans. You know, through the work that we've done there. So So I'm very grateful for my time there. I learned an incredible amount. So
yeah, me too. Me too. It's been very, very fruitful time.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me young. You know, ultimately that's what keeps me so young.
That and the goats.
The goats, my goats. That one that I was holding, that was Pachamama.
Pachamama, like what a great name is that, right? Do you want to tell the audience what that means?
Pachamama is the goddess. She's the goddess, the Peruvian goddess of Earth.
Yep.
Earth goddess. We have two other little babies, and one's named Junie or Juno, and the other one's named Demi or Demeter. So we went with goddess names this time.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Matt, I think you can take us